The village was called Oakshire. It was small and peaceful, surrounded by tall oak trees and rolling green hills. Wooden cottages with thatched roofs lined the narrow dirt road that ran through the center of the village. Farmers worked their fields from dawn until sunset, growing wheat, vegetables, and barley. Blacksmiths hammered iron tools in their small workshops, while women baked bread and prepared meals for their families. Children ran freely through the fields and along the river that flowed beside the village. Life was simple, but life was good. Among those children was a young boy named Daniel Whitmore, a curious child. Daniel Whitmore was only 10 years old, but he was known throughout the village for one special reason. He was incredibly curious. While other children stayed close to home, Daniel loved exploring the world beyond the village. He followed butterflies through the fields, climbed trees near the river, and often wandered near the edge of the forest. His father, Edward Whitmore, worked as a woodcutter and spent many days deep in the forest chopping trees. Daniel often begged to join him. The forest fascinated him. To Daniel, the tall trees and quiet paths felt like the entrance to a secret world filled with mysteries. But curiosity can sometimes lead people farther than they expect. The strange light in the forest. One cool autumn afternoon, Daniel was playing near the forest with 2 other children from the village. They were laughing and running between the trees, pretending they were brave explorers searching for hidden treasure. Suddenly, Daniel stopped. Something deep within the forest caught his eye. A strange glimmer of light flashed between the trees. It looked like sunlight reflecting off something bright. "Did you see that?" Daniel asked his friends. But the other children were too busy playing to notice. Daniel stepped closer to the trees. The light appeared again. Curious, Daniel slowly walked deeper into the forest. "Daniel, wait!" the other children shouted. But Daniel had already disappeared between the tall trees. When the boy didn't return, as the sun slowly sank behind the hills, the other children returned to the village. But Daniel did not. At first, his parents believed he might still be playing outside. But as darkness fell and Daniel still hadn't come home, worry spread through the Whitmore household. Edward Whitmore grabbed a lantern and began searching the village roads. "Daniel," he shouted. Soon other villagers joined the search. Within an hour, dozens of people were walking through the forest with lanterns and torches. Hunters brought their dogs. Farmers searched the riverbanks. The villagers called his name again and again, but the forest gave no answer. The long night. The search continued throughout the night. Lantern lights moved slowly through the dark forest like small glowing stars. But hour after hour passed with no sign of the missing boy. The forest seemed unusually quiet. No birds sang. No animals moved. Only the wind whispered through the tall branches above. By morning, the villagers began to fear the worst. A strange discovery. Just after sunrise, a hunter named William Carter discovered something important. Near a small stream deep inside the forest, he found Daniel's wooden toy horse lying in the mud. Daniel loved that toy and carried it everywhere. The hunter examined the ground carefully. He saw small footprints leading toward the stream. But then something strange happened. The footprints suddenly stopped. There were no other tracks. No signs of struggle. No animal tracks nearby. It was as if Daniel had simply vanished from the path. When the villagers heard this, fear spread quickly through Oakshire. Some whispered about wolves. Others spoke of darker things that might live in the forest. In the 17th century, many people believed the forests were home to mysterious spirits. The hermit in the woods. At the far edge of the forest lived a man named Elias Gray. Elias was an old hermit who had lived alone for many years. He rarely visited the village, but he was known to understand the forest better than anyone else. Desperate for answers, Daniel's father decided to seek his help. When Edward Whitmore arrived at the small wooden cabin, Elias listened quietly to the entire story. After a long silence, the old hermit spoke. "The boy is still alive." Edward looked at him in shock. "How can you be sure?" he asked. Elias slowly pointed toward the deep forest. "The forest protects those who enter it with wonder, not fear." The hidden journey. Elias agreed to guide the villagers deeper into the forest. but he warned them that few people knew the hidden paths that existed there. The group walked for hours through thick trees and narrow trails. Eventually, they reached a place none of them had seen before. An ancient stone tower stood among the trees. Its walls were cracked and covered in vines. The tower looked abandoned, but something unexpected caught their attention. A thin line of smoke rose gently into the air. Someone had been there recently. The lost boy appears. The villagers approached slowly. Edward Whitmore's heart pounded loudly. Suddenly, they heard a familiar voice. "Father?" Everyone froze. A small figure stepped out from behind the tower. It was Daniel, dirty and tired but alive. Edward ran forward and hugged his son tightly. The villagers could hardly believe it. After 2 days of searching, the lost boy had finally been found. The truth behind the mystery. When they returned to the village, Daniel explained what had happened. When he followed the shining light in the forest, he eventually discovered the old tower. Inside, he met an elderly traveling scholar who had been resting there during his journey. The light Daniel saw had been sunlight reflecting off the scholar's metal tools. The traveler had given Daniel food and allowed him to stay safely in the tower. But early the next morning, the scholar had already continued his journey. Daniel had tried to find his way home, but became lost among the many forest paths. Luckily, the villagers found him before anything bad could happen.